I screwed up my life for a one-night stand, instant regret. The wedding ring was still on my finger when the hotel door clicked shut behind me, and in that exact moment, my whole life began to collapse. People think cheating starts in a bedroom. It doesn't. It starts quietly. In your head. In comparison. In boredom disguised as curiosity. It starts when gratitude turns into entitlement and love begins to feel too safe. For 8 years, I had a man who loved me with a steadiness most people spend their whole lives searching for. He didn't disappear when things got hard. He didn't flirt with other women. He didn't raise his voice. He showed up, every day. And somehow, I convinced myself that wasn't enough. This is the story of how I threw away 8 years for 45 minutes, a cheap hotel room, and a fantasy that evaporated the second it became real. If you had asked me a year ago whether I was happy, I would have said yes without hesitation. That's the scary part. Happiness doesn't always leave loudly. Sometimes it erodes quietly, like sand slipping through fingers you didn't realize were open. Evan and I had been together since our early 20s. We grew up together in every way that mattered. First apartment. First serious jobs. First funerals. First holidays where we realized our parents were getting older. We had routines that fit like muscle memory, Sunday grocery runs, movie nights where we fell asleep halfway through, his hand automatically finding mine in crowded rooms. Everyone loved him. My parents adored him. His family treated me like I was already theirs. His mother called me the daughter I never had, and I used to feel proud of that. But somewhere around year 7, something shifted inside me. Not him. Me. I started noticing things I never had before. How predictable our days were. How he went to bed early. How he wore the same cologne. How our conversations had fewer surprises and more logistics. It wasn't dissatisfaction, it was restlessness. And instead of questioning why I felt that way, I blamed him. Social media didn't help. Nights out with friends didn't help. Everyone seemed to be living posting filtered chaos, flirtation, excitement. New people. New stories. New mistakes framed as freedom. And I started to believe the most dangerous lie of all. Maybe I missed out. I never told Evan this. I smiled. I nodded. I planned. I played my role well. But inside, I started romanticizing a version of life that didn't include responsibility or history, just adrenaline. That's when I met Marcus. I met him in Las Vegas. Girls' trip. Long weekend. A harmless escape, I told myself. Marcus was a pit boss at one of the casinos. Confident. Loud. Flashy in a way Evan never was. He flirted like it was a sport, made eye contact like he already knew the ending. He noticed me immediately. That attention hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't love, it was validation. And after years of being chosen quietly, I suddenly wanted to feel wanted loudly. Marcus laughed at everything I said. Touched my arm when he spoke. Told me I was different. Asked questions Evan already knew the answers to because he'd lived them with me. I didn't shut it down. I didn't step away. I didn't tell myself to remember who I was. Instead, I leaned in. I told myself it was harmless. That flirting wasn't cheating. That I deserved to feel desired. That I'd go home and everything would go back to normal. But desire doesn't like boundaries once you feed it. That night, after too many drinks and too many excuses, Marcus suggested we keep talking somewhere quieter. I knew what that meant. I remember the elevator ride more than anything else. The mirrored walls. My reflection staring back at me, lipstick slightly smudged, eyes bright with something reckless. I could have stopped then. I didn't. The hotel room was nothing like the fantasy I'd built in my head. It smelled like stale air and cheap cleaner. The lighting was harsh. The bedspread rough. The excitement collapsed almost immediately, replaced by something hollow and rushed. There was no magic. No connection. No moment where I thought, yes, this was worth it. Just urgency. Sweat. Silence afterward. 45 minutes. That's all it took. As soon as it was over, I felt it, the weight. The nausea. The irreversible understanding that I had crossed a line I could never uncross. Marcus was already detached. Scrolling his phone. No lingering looks. No aftercare. No significance. I wasn't special. I was convenient. I left without saying much, my heart pounding not with excitement, but with panic. Back in my room, I showered until my skin burned. I stared at myself in the mirror and whispered, "What have you done?" But even then, part of me still clung to denial. I told myself I could bury it. That it was a mistake, not a reflection of who I was. That Evan didn't need to know. That lie lasted exactly 6 days. Sunday dinner was a tradition. Every week, Evan's parents hosted. Big table. Laughter. Familiar dishes. Safe ground. I don't know why I chose that night. Maybe guilt wanted witnesses. Maybe part of me wanted punishment. Halfway through dinner, while his mother was talking about a family wedding, I felt my chest tighten. My hands started shaking. Evan noticed immediately. "You okay?" he asked softly, reaching for my knee. That touch shattered me. I stood up so abruptly my chair scraped loudly against the floor. "I need to say something." The room went quiet. Everyone looked at me. I don't remember all the words, just the way they tumbled out, clumsy and selfish and desperate. I made a mistake. I cheated. It didn't mean anything. I was scared. "I love you." Evan didn't yell. That was worse. He just stared at me, like someone trying to read a language they never wanted to learn. His father cleared his throat. His mother's face drained of color. Evan stood slowly. Calm. Too calm. "I need you to leave," he said. "Not let's talk. Not give me time. Just leave." I reached for him. He stepped back. "I can't look at you right now." I left with nothing but my purse and the sound of his mother crying behind me. That was the moment I truly understood consequences. By the end of the week, I was out of our home. By the end of the month, I was living out of a suitcase at the Bellagio, because staying somewhere expensive felt like control, even as everything else unraveled. I drank overpriced vodka alone at the bar, watching couples laugh, pretending I wasn't unraveling. Evan didn't call. He didn't text. And then I saw him. Not alone. He was with a woman I didn't recognize. She laughed easily. He smiled, really smiled. The way he used to with me. Something inside my chest collapsed permanently. That was when the truth finally landed. The grass wasn't greener. It was artificial turf. And I had burned down the only real thing I ever had. The worst part wasn't Evan throwing me out. It was the silence that followed. No angry texts. No late-night calls. No demands for explanations or closure. Just nothing. Silence is what happens when someone decides you no longer deserve access to their pain. The first week after I left our house felt unreal, like I was floating outside my body watching myself make bad decisions in slow motion. I kept expecting Evan to crack. To show up furious. To ask why. To need me to explain myself. But Evan had always been disciplined with his emotions. And now that discipline was aimed straight at me. I stayed at the Bellagio because it felt temporary. Because hotels don't ask questions. Because if I didn't unpack my suitcase, I could pretend I wasn't homeless, just in transition. Every morning, I woke up disoriented. Different ceiling. Heavy curtains. The quiet hum of air conditioning. I'd reach for my phone and feel that same stab of dread when there were no messages from him. I tried calling once. It rang until voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I told myself I'd give him space. That space was respectful. That space was mature. The truth. I was terrified of hearing his voice sound unfamiliar. By the second week, the adrenaline wore off. That's when the regret sharpened. It wasn't cinematic. It wasn't dramatic. It was mundane and relentless, like a low-grade illness you can't shake. I started noticing all the small things Evan used to do that I had never thanked him for. The way he filled my gas tank when he borrowed my car. The way he cut fruit for me without asking. The way he memorized my coffee order even when I changed it. I remembered how safe I felt falling asleep next to him. How he'd pull me closer if I shifted away in my sleep, as if his body knew mine needed reassurance even when I didn't. And suddenly, the wild life I thought I wanted felt childish. Empty. I ran into Marcus again, by accident. Same casino floor. Same uniform. Same grin that had once felt intoxicating. He waved like we were old friends. "Hey," he said casually. "Didn't think I'd see you again." I felt my stomach twist. He didn't ask how I was. Didn't mention that night. Didn't look at me like someone who mattered. I realized then how invisible I was to him. That hurt more than I expected. We talked for maybe 2 minutes, surface-level nonsense. And as I walked away, I felt something close to disgust. Not for him. For myself. I had traded 8 years of love for that. Back home, if you could call a hotel room home, I started replaying the dinner over and over in my head. Evan's face when I told him. Not anger. Not shock. Disappointment. There's a specific kind of pain that comes from knowing you shattered someone's trust so completely they don't even argue. They just accept the truth and move accordingly. I imagined him packing my things. Touching memories we made together. Deciding what to keep, what to throw away. I wondered if he cried. The idea that he might have cried alone, while I sat in a luxury hotel drinking vodka I couldn't taste, made me physically ill. That's when I finally unpacked my suitcase. Because denial was exhausting. A month after I left, I got an email. Not from Evan. From his sister. It was short. Polite. Carefully worded. She asked me not to contact him again. He's focusing on healing, she wrote. Please respect that. That was it. No cruelty. No insults. Just a door quietly closing. I stared at that email for a long time. Longer than I should have. I realized then that I had lost more than a partner. I had lost a family. I started spiraling. I drank too much. Slept too little. Spent money recklessly like it could buy distraction. I posted smiling photos online, because pretending you're okay is easier when strangers believe you. But late at night, the guilt came roaring back. I thought about the future Evan and I used to talk about. The kids' names we half-joked about. The house we planned to buy someday. All erased by a choice I made in under an hour. I kept asking myself the same question, over and over. Why wasn't I enough for myself? Why did I need chaos to feel alive? Why did I mistake peace for boredom? Then came the moment that broke me. I was scrolling mindlessly one afternoon when I saw it. A photo. Evan. Smiling. His arm around the same woman I'd seen at the bar weeks earlier. They looked comfortable. Natural. Like they'd known each other longer than they probably had. The caption was simple. Grateful for new beginnings. I dropped my phone. That sentence echoed in my chest like a verdict. New beginnings, for him. Endings, for me. I realized something then that no amount of regret could undo. He wasn't punishing me. He was moving on. And I was stuck living in the aftermath of my own decision. That night, I didn't drink. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the grief come fully for the first time. Not just grief for Evan. Grief for the version of myself who had been loved purely and steadily, and didn't recognize the gift she had been given. I cried until my chest ached. And when I finally fell asleep, I dreamed of our old apartment. Empty. Echoing. Sunlight still pouring in like nothing had changed. Karma didn't arrive dramatically. It came disguised as normal life. My job performance slipped. I missed deadlines. I forgot meetings. I smiled too much in public and fell apart in private. People noticed. They always do. The woman Evan was seeing. Her name was Lily. I learned that accidentally, through mutual friends who stopped speaking carefully around me. She was kind. Calm. Recently divorced. She laughed softly, not loudly. She listened. Everything I hadn't appreciated when I had it. I hated her, not because she did anything wrong, but because she was proof Evan hadn't broken. I was. Then the hotel stay ended. Credit cards have limits, even when you're trying to numb yourself. I moved into a small sublet. Bare walls. Mismatched furniture. Silence so loud it felt aggressive. One night, Marcus texted me. "You up?" That was it. No apology. No concern. No acknowledgement of the wreckage I was living in. I didn't reply. That's when I finally understood. I hadn't chosen freedom. I had chosen disposability. 6 months after everything fell apart, I saw Evan again in person. A grocery store. Of all places. He looked lighter. Healthier. Like someone who had set down a weight he'd been carrying for too long. We locked eyes. For a split second, I thought he might turn away. He didn't. He nodded politely. Distant. Controlled. "Hey," he said. That one word hurt more than any insult ever could. We exchanged brief pleasantries. Weather. Work. Nothing personal. Then Lily appeared beside him, her hand sliding naturally into his. He introduced us. "This is Lily." She smiled, genuinely. Not smug. Not defensive. I wanted the floor to swallow me. When they walked away, I stood frozen in the aisle, gripping my cart like it was the only thing keeping me upright. That was the moment I knew there would be no reconciliation. Not because he hated me, but because he had outgrown the version of me who betrayed him. It's been over a year now. People assume time heals regret. It doesn't. It just teaches you how to live with it. Evan is engaged. I know because his sister, who once loved me, announced it publicly. The ring was beautiful. The smile on his face real. I cried for hours. Not because I wanted him back anymore, but because I finally accepted that I never would. I've dated since then. Nothing sticks. Trust feels fragile now, both giving it and receiving it. I understand too well how easily people justify destruction when boredom whispers lies. Here's the truth no one tells you about cheating. The regret doesn't come from getting caught. It comes from realizing you traded something irreplaceable for something meaningless. I didn't lose Evan because of one night. I lost him because I believed excitement mattered more than loyalty. If you're reading this while feeling restless in something stable, listen carefully. Peace isn't boring. Consistency isn't a trap. And love doesn't need chaos to be real. Some lessons only arrive after the door closes. And some doors never open again.